Good morning, everybody. Chuck Carstensen, Michelle Carstensen, and we are back for our quarterly episode. What's happening in Minnesota real estate? This is episode number 31. Last time we did this was in August, and now we are in mid-November, but beautiful looking weather outside for mid-November in Minnesota. Michelle, how you been?
I'm doing well. I can't wait to walk my dog today. It is nice out, and I'm going to take advantage of this weather. That's for sure. Just
Yep.
like our clients have been taking advantage of the weather and looking at houses and selling their houses and lots of showings. So, on the ones that are priced to sell, that's for sure.
Yeah. And one of the things we talk about on this show is like, what's the current market situation? So we'll talk about interest rates. We're heading into winter, reasons people move in the winter. I talk about the flow of the market, some market statistics. And what you mentioned is, yeah, we have some listings. They are getting offers, activity. How do you feel activity is so far? I'd say just as we hit this fall and into the winter season.
Hey, it's the same thing I've been talking about since August and probably my entire life. But if you price your house accurately, you're going to get showings and eventually sell. We have a couple properties not getting showings, a little overpriced, probably need some upgrades to get them to the price they want to be. And that's pretty normal. The other ones that are priced accurately or niche properties sometimes get way more showings. And sometimes we have a couple properties get a ton of showings and no offers yet. Just not quite what people are looking for. I know Barbara on our team had open house yesterday. No matter when you're listening to this, sometimes the open houses we get 0 people there, sometimes like 2 or 3, and she did one and had 30 people there. So that was exciting for her. That was a new thing. 30 groups, I think, not even people. I think she said one point there was like 16 people in the house at the same time. It was chaotic, but very niche property that is already sold. So, yeah, it's people are still looking. I'm showing houses to people. The rate did slightly go down, but as we keep continuing to tell people, it's about if you want to move, move. When it's time to refi, you'll refi. If the rates go down, it'll be nutso whatso, and we're making 10 offers at 30,000 over list price again. So you can wait for that if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of activity on some of these listings, like you said, when they are priced where they should be, whatever that means in this market. We used to talk about aggressive price, market price, and then maybe overprice, and that shifts a little. I think up until the recent statistics that come out say monthly, but they come out looking back a couple months, year over year prices, median sale price is up, appreciation was up like just slightly, like say 1%. And that's a general overview. Some counties or cities could be up more than that. So year to date, the market appreciated. I do think we're going to see slight depreciation on these sale prices this fall. So one of the things I said I'd bring up is market statistics, meaning what's happening currently in the market. So on our North Star MLS, which tracks a lot of the listings, and obviously Minnesota, Western Wisconsin, although there's a few MLS systems a few MLS systems that realtors use in Minnesota. So in the last 7 days, I'm looking down at the stats here, 106 coming soon listings, 1,287 new listings, and then 126 back on the market. That means sale fell through because of inspections. So if you just do the math on that, that means about 10% of them are coming back on the market for one reason or other. But here's one, price decreases, 1,360. Now, remember, there's other listings out there than those 1,287. This is talking about all the listings out there. But it's, we were not having many price decreases, obviously, say mid-2020 through early 2023. And now the second half of the year, that is a common thing, price decreases. And why is that? Normally it's a seller like, hey, my neighbor got that price, so I want that price. I have a similar house. And we'll talk a little bit more about why people price decrease. Pending sales, though, pretty good, 1,026 in the last week. Closed sales, 1,085, so pretty good. Canceled and expired listings. That's when somebody's like, nah, I'm not selling, or I'm going to refresh or relist it. That's canceled. Expired, which a lot of listings expire this time of year, November, December. 306 canceled, 264 expired listings. So now there used to not be barely anything expiring in that time period I mentioned. Now there's a lot of them expiring, like a bunch, like, oh, that's 30 some 40% of the listings that come on, then we're losing that many as well. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, well, some of those are just, instead of doing a price decrease or doing one, they'll just put it back on the market and make it recirculate the market as a new listing when it's the same listing.
What we mean is on a canceled listing, and sometimes expired. Sometimes they're canceling it and re-putting it out there. And it could be a different reason. We had a listing that we were offering kind of 3 different ways. Is 120 acres of land. So we sold one of the 40-acre parcels. So we literally had to cancel the 120-acre listing, or at least the parcel is under contract and to close in a couple of weeks, and then relisted at the new price with the remaining 40. And then we kept the other 40-acre listing. So sometimes they cancel listing something totally different, but yeah, some people cancel and relist the same listing 10,000 lower or whatever. That's what she's saying.
Yeah. Nope. That seems pretty accurate. Yeah, but we are seeing more cancel or expired listings, I assume, but not more than we usually do at this time. I mean, yeah, during COVID, not as many, but a lot of.
Oh, we lost Michelle.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, she's back.
A lot of people take it off the market this time of year and wait to put it back on in January and February. So
yeah,
it's not unusual.
So that's one of the things I wanted to bring up is reasons. First of all, if you're watching live or especially watching live, because otherwise you necessarily wouldn't comment and get your comment answered below. So you can comment below or in the comments with your real estate questions. You can also just say hi if you're watching live. Obviously, if you're watching recording, you ever have any questions, real estate needs, reach out. But reasons people move in the winter months, a lot of the reasons people cancel, expire the listing, like, oh, nobody's going to move in Minnesota in the winter. I'm sure we've talked about this before, probably last year, the year before doing the show. But there's a number of reasons people move in the winter. Michelle, why you're seeing some of the people that are buying or selling with you moving like this time of year?
Yeah, I mean, there's estate sales, people get divorced. And then the other people find their niche properties. I mean, one of the clients I've been helping, probably for over a year or so, and just looking for a niche property. If it came up now or 3 years from now, kind of like last year, this time when I bought my lake property, I had been looking for 4 years. And when it comes up, I mean, you're going to buy it. So then you got to move. And then some people want to switch school districts. It's just so many reasons. And yeah, I mean, a lot of you are locked into a lower interest rate. And it's like, why would I go to a higher interest rate? Well, because you want to move. If you want to move, just move. Like, if you're going to be unhappy, depressed where you are, and you saw a house you want to live in the area you want to live in, I mean, go buy it.
Yeah.
Just move.
And
your house is still worth a lot of money. So
yeah, the market's, like I said, still year over year appreciation. In theory, probably off the peak prices, it is down for the people that sold it, oversold their house at the perfect timing and had it beautifully showing. But in theory, the prices are still way up there. But also, I think in Minnesota, people think, wow, nobody moves December, January. And the fact is, half the people maybe buy and sell, or 60%. Yeah, there's not like zero. So in a busy spring market or whatever, you have X amount of people moving, which obviously with all the real estate agents and transactions that are happening, it's a good amount. But December, November, January, it's still only 60-80% of that flow. It's not, I shouldn't say only, it's not that much less. It's pretty good for what you would think based on how people talk about it, because Michelle mentioned several reasons, but one other one is this time of year, if somebody's on the market and trying to sell it, there might be people like, if I get the price, I'll move. There could be a little bit of savings. So you could find a house where there is a more motivated person. They just need to move for whatever reasons. Yes, it could be a divorce, could be an estate sale, could be a slightly distressed property, could be they want to get out of here and get to a warmer state or whatever it is.
yeah, that too.
And they might be more motivated than the neighbor who sold it for 30,000 more, the exact same house, 6 months ago. So you can get a deal. And then the interest rates they kind of went down a little bit. I think at their peak, they got not too long ago to like middle eights, right? Middle
Yeah.
eights.
Yep,
And
they're
now
down
they've
now.
dipped a little below 8, which doesn't sound great, right? If you know somebody who got a better interest rate not too long ago, you're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the same live we could do all the time with about the same answers. It's just the way people look at things, and you got to look at things differently. And Chuck and I were talking the beginning of the year. I think the market was a little hit or miss. People weren't knowing what to do, thought maybe the interest rates would drop significantly. We don't think they will drop significantly anytime real soon. And now it's just like the interest rates have settled into what they are. And if you want to move, you just move. I think I have 11 or 12 closings this month alone in November. Um, and that's a lot compared to what I did at the beginning of the year. And a lot of people reaching out and just wanting to move. We don't see a slowdown at all. I mean, a lot of times you also talk about how realtors kind of take vacation at this time and they go south or whatever they do, which is great for them. But Chuck and I, we're not slowing down. Not because we're just like out here like, oh, we're not slowing down. No, actually, I'm super excited to be helping all the people I am and listing a lot of houses and helping buyers, and obviously room for lots more. However, we're not slowing down. Like, our business is pretty good for this time of year. So
Yeah. So I think having a slightly nicer weather does help for a little longer. But also the thing about Minnesota winter, so let's say it's nice I don't even look at the weather all the time, but let's say it's nice through Thanksgiving, and then all of a sudden we get pummeled with snow or cold weather. Well, it starts getting better by March, and all of a sudden you buy a house in January, you're closing in March anyway, and it's
yeah,
like you're fine. So it's
yeah,
it's it's long. Winters in Minnesota can seem long, but as far as how the housing cycle of finding a house, looking for a house, finding one you like, closing it, and moving, it's not that long. Like, people get focused sometimes on, well, I don't want to move in the winter. You get somebody like movers, or you have your people that would help you move. It's not like they're out in the frigid cold, for 4 months moving. Literally, you organize yourself and you load up in a day or so, and in several hours, and you make the move and you're done. And sometimes when
yep,
you're moving in the winter, it's better than 100 degrees in July. You'd melt.
yeah. No, I moved in the winter. It was fine for me. Um, and yeah, that's why we're seeing people moving, and we'll continue to see people move. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah. So then, one of the things we normally talk about is what we think will happen. We talk about what's currently happening. We talk about what we think will happen. And one of the things that a common thing we hear maybe lately, so I want to see how the economy goes. The economy obviously is still inflation. Me and Michelle are not into watching the news and huge follow the economy. Anytime I listen to that kind of stuff, it literally feels like it's polluting my mind. Like,
It's like
it's
word
so
vomit.
like it's a crisis or whatever's going on in the world. It's crisis. I get it. There are some things in the world going on that are not ideal that we should know about, but also knowing that, like, doing this over 20 years and knowing how the flow of the cycle of the business goes, we kind of know more than most people what's around the corner. The reasons why I would say we know more than most people, obviously, we're, as far as the housing market, we've got a lot of experience. Then the other part of the experience is when we do a lot of business like we do, you have um, more chances to gain experience for all the people we help. And then you have the insights of what do we think will happen based on what we know. And it helps us to know a little bit more than most people who are like, oh, it's going to go way down or way up. And I don't change my position on anything I said. Like, I think the market's going to be fairly flat here, which I probably said the last couple of shows. You have the dip in the last couple of shows. I probably said a little bit dip in the fall, winter, and then in the spring it's going to be fine. Do you have any changes to that kind of prediction or any more details you wanted to share on that, Michelle?
No, I think you've hit that on the mark pretty much. And I do believe, and I've been talking about it for years, and I will continue to do so, that even so, whatever does happen, whether Chuck's accurate or not, the spring market's going to be more populated than any other market. And that's just the time of year, and it's what we already touched on. So, going to see a populated spring market.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it, with these high interest rates, the home prices haven't dropped that much. So when people get worried about these kind of things, they're like, when's the bubble going to burst, or what? Yeah, so the housing bubble, there might be other segments of the economy, and we've mentioned this before, that have a little more burst to them. But right now, the housing market's not going to burst, because they know from the past that when it did burst, it really brought down the whole economy. So a lot of what they do now, since so many people and so much circulates around real estate, is they do everything they can to kind of keep it afloat, I guess. And
Yeah.
and they'll do that for a while. And like I predicted before, long in the future, or not too long, depending on how you look at it, but probably like 10 years or so, give or take either way, there will be a time where it does burst, because it does happen. It's just, you want to predict it and you don't want to be wrong. What you should do is own real estate, pay it down, and do well in your other finances. So then when it does go down, you have money to take advantage of it, because you don't owe money on your homes, or in a good position. And then you're able to scoop up some properties when it does happen, which is a ways off. So everybody out there hearing the sound of my voice now, or listening to the recording, has plenty of time to do that if that was their focus before that happens, the next bubble.
True.
All right, Michelle. So when we do these shows, obviously we got different things going on now. So a lot of times we go about 30 minutes. We don't have to go 30 minutes on this show, but what are other insights you'd want to share with people who listen to this recording or pop on live?
Yeah, I mean, who knows when they're watching this? There was a lot about in the news, which I don't watch, but I know it came up about a lawsuit with a commission thing in another state. And I've had a few people ask me about that, and I'm not sure how it will affect realtors as a whole. I don't believe it's going to affect Chuck and I, because we're going to continue to run our family business how we run our family business. And the people that work alongside of us know our worth and value in real estate. I can list 100 things that we do on the seller side and 100 things we do on the buyer side. However, using an agent, like we talked about before, obviously if you want to sell by owner or not is up to you, but using an agent that is experienced, and I know some of you out there probably want to help out a newbie sometimes, but somebody that's really experienced like Chuck and I, it's hard to pass us by when we know we're going to get you where you want to go. And everything in life is based on doing things differently. And in every job, people get paid for what they're doing. And but Chuck and I always know that we're being honest, and we're not forcing you to do anything you want to do. So I know he'll touch a little bit on this, and it should be touched on, but there is a good reason to have a realtor on your side when negotiating. And the majority of clients, and obviously the ones that sign up with us, understand how come they use a realtor. So
yeah, I guess if anybody's bought and sold a home, you kind of understand when you're listing a home, there's a commission. The commission is then you can kind of split, where if a buyer has an agent, they get some of the commission, and then the listing side gets the commission. So when we help a buyer, you're not, paying us commission, comes out of the seller side. And with Remax Results and many of the brokers in Minnesota, there's a broker fee. So that's like the buyer closing charge. So I'd say in general on the lawsuit Michelle mentioned, is like, it was because, wow, now the commissions are higher because we're forced to pay the buyer's agent on the listing commission, which, understand this, years ago, when real estate started, there was a listing commission and there was no buyer representation. And then buyers would call the listing agent, and the buyers weren't represented, the sellers were representative, and the agent was helping the sellers. And the buyers kind of got, for lack of a better word, the short end of the stick, because there wasn't even way back in the day disclosure laws or anything. So there'd be all kind of problems. So then to make the business better, they're like, hey, we got to do some disclosures. So seller can't just lie about their crappy home and all that stuff. And buyers would get home inspections. So it went better that way. But even for a while, and in some states, and different states are different with the real estate agencies and laws. The sellers had an agent, the buyers didn't have an agent, and there was just a commission paid to the seller's agent. But things were negative, a lot of disputes and issues because the buyer didn't have representation. So then it became like, hey, the commission would still be very similar, probably actually less as far as percentage than it used to be years and years ago. And prices have gone up. So that's part of the balancing of less commission overall. But then the buyer agent would get a split of the listing commission, and everybody's happy. Like, oh, they got representation, I got representation, this works well. And of course, time passes. Maybe it's been a generation, let's say, of this going pretty well. Not that there's never a real estate dispute, but very, very few. I mean, I've been doing this 22 years. I've never had one of my clients personally have to go to arbitration or to court. Have there been some post-closing disputes like, hey, this person left this, or what, this, all of a sudden the water heater doesn't work, and you figure it out or whatever? Yes. But that, I mean, I had a lot of sales with no disputes. So then lawyers probably, and people like look at the numbers like, well, we can pay less commission if we're not forced to pay the buyer's agent. So they look through their narrow box of or they look through like, maybe we can make big money because there's holes we can poke in this, and they sue, and that's kind of what happened. So right now there's nothing to do on it. That's what they say on it. I mean, I think it could go back in some of these states or brokerages where there's not buyer representation within the listing. The listing commission could change a little bit because of it, but that's not really helping anybody. For sale by owners think they're helping themselves and saving commission selling on their own, and they get way less money then. Now, let's say in a discount brokerage situation, people think they're helping themselves and saving money, but most times you're getting somebody who's not experienced, can't negotiate, things happen because of it, and we can see a lot of those complaints. So if there were a change off of this, I'm being probably more detailed than you thought, Michelle, on this. If there was a change off of this, it probably doesn't help anybody, even though in theory the seller might be like, I'm saving $6,000, just like a for sale by owner. But are you, or is it more free for all, and then it's just a mess for everybody? But I can get that finding a way to make money and poke holes in things works, but then you got to think back 30 years ago where there's all kind of big disputes and it wasn't working well. That's why they changed it in the first place. So there you go. That's my explanation of it.
No, I agree. When a seller lists a contract, they know, and most of them prefer that they have somebody else has the buyer in the most cases, and it should, that's my opinion. It should be like that. It should be a split representation so that you can figure out how to negotiate, and that's how I look at it. But I wasn't back in the business generations ago when they did it differently. And when anyone comes to me and calls me and is like, can you show me a house? I don't want to pay commission though. And that'll save the sellers. Well, the sellers already signed up for paying commission. So unless they were disputing the agent and we didn't want to pay commission, they already know they're going to pay commission. So most of them would actually like you to have your own representation. So I think it'll go that way, but there's got to be headlines, and I do agree there's lawyers or somebody out there like, we could make billions on this, and this looks like a case we can win. And just like real estate and other businesses, when people try to do that, it happens.
Yeah, in theory, you do have to have the paperwork, right? That's why one of the reasons we make you sign paperwork, listing forms, buyer forms. They actually say on these forms that, hey, you're paying this, and and we explain it, and obviously people can read it over and ask questions. So as part of it, I think in those states they didn't quite have their documentation good, so they can poke holes in it. Where we've, in all my years of doing this or recent years, the documentation's there, where it's like we're not like just throw an extra commission that you didn't know about. You like literally know, okay, we're paying 2.7% to the buyer's agent. This is how it's done. And I'm sure some of it is like, we wish we could do it different, because there are companies, I think, or there's companies that'll list your home just on MLS So you just have to pay the buyer agent and you pay him a little fee, and then you're saving the seller side. But then again, you have nobody helping you. Most of the time I have to see those listings. They're priced well, but marketed horribly, or priced way too high and have no chance of selling. And yes, when the market was super hot, some of them would actually work out. So
Yep. And then there's the people that are also like, oh, if I go with those people, I can save money. And like you said, they're not really doing anything for you. And likely more often than not will get you more money than you would have saved from those people that are just going to throw it on the market for you.
yeah. So I think with that, since Samantha's making lunch and it's probably getting noisy in the background, it's all right, Samantha. You're in the background on a podcast. I got you a mention on my podcast, Samantha. Yes, I'm in the podcast.
Hi, Samantha. No, I think we're good. If anyone has questions, obviously always reach out to us. We're here to help you in any way we can.
All right. That's what happens doing it at home. So yes, have a great, let's see, what do we got coming up before we do one of these again? Obviously Thanksgiving and Christmas, we will not do a live show for real estate before then. So have great holidays and enjoy the weather today. Chuck and Michelle
See you in
signing out.
2024. Thank you. Bye-bye.